What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about budgets and a specific topic in line with budgets in MLB The Show franchise mode. And in today's video, we're going to show you guys the difference between your in-year budget and future budget within the game. Specifically, I just want to address some comments that I've been getting and an issue that I've run into in the past and something that I've had discussions with in the comment section and gotten a more elaborate view of what's actually going on with your budget within the game. If we go to the top right hand corner of our franchise screen and we then click on the clipboard icon and go down to our budgets, we get a bit of a view of what's going on with our player salaries and everything of that nature. You can see in the top right, or middle right I should say, it shows our player salaries as 47 million, and it shows that bar completely full. And as the years move on, that bar empties as our salary number goes down. And that's an interesting thing going on there, because what you're looking at is you're looking at essentially what it's telling you your capped budget is for that point in time. So right now it does say that we have $53 million of available budget. And in fact, if you subtract the team revenue, the revenue sharing, the player salaries, the staff salaries, you do ultimately come out to a large amount of salary that we would projected have available. And that's also showing in your projected yearly surplus. But ultimately, what happens here is you get to a certain point within franchise mode where you maybe see that you have all of this available budget, supposedly, and the numbers seem to work out to the fact that you have excess money that you could expend on players, that you might be able to utilize on players, and you go into your contract situations with various players and you want to try to make an offer. Well, what ends up happening a lot of the time is you end up capped on what you can offer these players. So right here, for example, I cannot afford to offer this contract to my catcher, Roberto Perez. However, it does say that we have payroll available to utilize in order to do that, and in theory, this contract would be for future years, so you would think that you would be able to utilize that money to sign a contract for this player for future years. The problem is, and this is basically what I've discovered through playing franchise mode in the past few seasons, as well as now talking within the comment sections and talking to other folks, is that the game caps your salary or caps your amount of player payroll at what it is at the beginning of the regular season. Now, it can shift a little bit depending on trades and things like that. In fact, when you even go into the trade screen, it's going to show your available budget that is that maxed out amount that does not quite align with what it's maxing out your salaries at right now. So in reality, we should be able to spend about $90 million, just roughly estimating, combined between our available payroll and our current amount of player salaries. But it's only letting us spend that current amount of like 45 million or 50 million or so. What you can do is you can actually expand that payroll amount by adding a player to the team via trade and expanding the amount of budget that you're using that way. You can't do it through contract extensions during the season. So if I were to, for example, trade for an expensive player on another team. Let's say I go ahead and make this trade for Trevor Story, for example, which is going to take my budget from 52 million available to 31 million available because of his $20 million payroll amount. That is then going to utilize that budget amount, and whenever I actually go to negotiate with players, and in addition, when I go to the budget screen in the player's salary screen, it will then show that I'm now at that 66 mark, and 66 million is what I will have during the season to be able to sign for future seasons, which is a really weird way to work it. And I hope you guys are following along, but it's kind of difficult to really grasp what they're trying to do there with these things. But nonetheless, it is basically capping you on your salary amount, even though you might have available budget left on your team. And that's during the season. So there's a clear difference between the amount you have available during the season and the amount you're going to have available for a future year and in the off season. So let's go ahead and simulate forward to the off season in the very same franchise and show you guys what our budget actually looks like then and how much we're able to spend. All right, so we've now advanced to the off season here, and you can see the amount of revenue that we pulled in during the season and therefore the amount of available budget that we have based off of that. You can see based on the player salary bars that it is still putting you at the top of the bar at 47 million, but whenever we actually go to negotiate with players, it is no longer capping us at that amount of players' salaries. So we can absolutely go now to our exclusive free agent and we can make an offer of however much we want. And it is going to tell us down there at the bottom now that our total payroll is going to change before and after. It's going to tell us that our projected surplus is going to go down after negotiating that deal, in contrast to what it was doing during the regular season, where it wouldn't let you go beyond your current salary maximum as it was. And that salary maximum, like I said, is capped at whatever it was to start the season. You can grow that by trading for a player with a higher salary. And if you watched my Pittsburgh Pirates franchise at all, that is a true example in there of whenever I traded for a player that had a $10 million salary, I was able to do that. And I was able to expand my salary number by $10 million in this very franchise, but I was still not able to negotiate with any players. I couldn't sign a player to a $10 million contract. I could only expand it by trading for somebody. So it's odd the way that it caps you during negotiations in the season, and that's something that you need to know, because that is a comment that I get regularly. I get it all the time. I get people asking, why when I go to negotiate players is it telling me I don't have enough? I don't have enough. I don't have the available space to make that offer to that player. Well, in reality, what it's doing is it's just capping you during the regular season, and it's not going to allow you to do those negotiations that you were planning to do. So you're going to want to make sure that you're not just trading away players and things like that because you're fearing you're not going to be able to extend them, because ultimately you will be able to during the off season whenever the payroll opens up and your surplus is factored in to what you have for a potential payroll. So you can see now that I've made offers and actually extended players such as Roberto Perez, and all that happened here was I waited till the offseason to be able to extend them. Before, it wouldn't let me make an offer on them. Now it will let me make an offer on them, and I've gone beyond that $45-ish million that it was capping me at before. I'm now at $59 million, and I still have all this available budget, and I can certainly go into the players that I have to offer arbitration to, the players that I'm trying to tender contract extensions to, and I can certainly go into free agency and I can offer players a bunch of money. I mean, heck, I can go in here and offer on some of the top free agents, and I can offer them, massive deals, $30 million a year in some cases, and it's not going to negatively affect me the way that it did during the regular season. So all of this is just to say that I want people to be aware that there's a difference between your current year salary and your future year salary, and when you're able to have access to them. For whatever the reason is, the game is going to make you only have access to your current year salary when you're trying to negotiate. Even though you're negotiating contracts for future years, it's not going to give you access to those numbers. I don't know if the system isn't quite maybe intelligent enough, or maybe it's just not intuitive enough to understand that you're using future years' money on that. You're not using the current money for that. I don't really know what's going on there, but like whenever you negotiate contracts in pretty much any other game, the system is always going to recognize that you're using your future cap space, you're using your future salary. You could talk about NHL, you could talk about Madden, you could talk about just about any game. It's going to recognize that a future contract is going to be utilizing or counting against your future salary cap space. It just simply doesn't do that here. It only does that once you officially reach the off season. So you definitely want to make sure you understand that concept, even though it's a bit wonky, so that you don't get yourself into a bad situation, so that you don't trade away somebody because you don't think you're going to be able to extend them. I got into my Pirates franchise and I was panicking at the point that it wouldn't let me re-sign anybody during the regular season there. And I'm thinking, man, I got all of these great players that I I need to tender contracts to, and players that I need to arbitrate with, guys that have high potential, B potential, guys that have progressed well for me, even my A potential players, my top prospects. It was telling me I didn't have enough money to make offers to them. I was panicking a little bit, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to sim forward. I'm going to see how this whole system works, even though I've never really gotten a full grasp of it before, and now I have a better understanding of it. And it just so happened that in the very same time frame, I had a nice viewer leave a very lengthy comment describing what's going on here, and we had a back and forth, and it really helped to educate me on the process. And I'm hoping to just relay that information to you guys so that you don't end up in the same situation, panicking, potentially getting rid of players that you don't need to, because you're going to inevitably have money available to you in the offseason. And hopefully that information is helpful to you guys if you are playing franchise mode on MLB The Show. If it was useful to you, make sure you hit that like button, make sure you subscribe down below, and comment as always. Did you guys know this? Have you run into these issues as well? I know that I've run into them in the past, and I guess I just ignored them. But you know, it's an issue that I'm sure is prevalent for a lot of people, because I do get a lot of comments on it. So nonetheless, I do hope it was useful to you. And if it was useful to you, like I said, leave all that feedback down below. As always, I'll see you guys in the next video, and I hope you have a good one.